You're listening to The Morning Buzz.
To the Morning Buzz.
To the Morning Buzz.
The Morning Buzz on 90.3. 90.3.
90.3.
90.3 WMSC.
WMSC.
WMSC Upper Montclair.
Upper Montclair, New Jersey.
Well, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is Ryan Breyta here live at WMSC Upper Montclair in the station. And I am joined along with in Zoom with
Kyle Pepitone. Hello, how are you?
I'm doing well, Kyle. I mean, this May weather's really enjoyable, I have to say. It's really putting a better mood. It's really uplifting my spirits. I don't know about you.
I'd say too, but then I remember that it's May and I'm still trying to process March, so, you know.
I'm still trying to process last March. So I think
that's for sure.
We also have in the Zoom studio, Thomas Tarter. Thomas, how are you?
Hi, what's up, Breyta? How you been today?
Oh,
Give
I guess,
you your news updates, you know?
yeah, and I know we have a lot of packed-filled stories today, Thomas. So, Thomas, whenever you're ready for that newscast.
Sure, we do. All right, so first today, Governor Phil Murphy will be holding a COVID briefing where he will be announcing the lifting of more COVID protocols. On his official Twitter page, Governor Murphy states that, quote, "Our COVID metrics are decisively trending in the right direction." Many are hoping that the governor will announce that he is fully reopening like New York City planned on doing in the summertime. Yesterday, New Jersey reported 1,048 cases of COVID and 19 deaths. The rate of transmission is the lowest it's been in a year, with the rate of transmission being at 0.60 last May and at 0.40 now. This is in large part due to the vaccination efforts across the country, especially in New Jersey. Anyone 16 years and older can schedule an appointment for the COVID vaccine and can walk in at any of New Jersey's 6 mega vaccination sites. Now, here's Patricia Gallagher with some important news about the ongoing COVID pandemic restrictions in New York and New Jersey.
This is Patrina Geiger with your news update. On Sunday, May 2nd, Governor Phil Murphy tweeted that he plans on having another major announcement on more reopenings today at 1 p.m. at his COVID-19 briefing. The new plans the governor will discuss will touch upon the easing up restrictions and ramping up vaccinations. At Murphy's last conference, he stated how 2,819,226 New Jersey residents were fully vaccinated.
As of this morning's report, we have administered a total of nearly 6.7 million doses, and more than 2.8 million New Jerseyans are now fully vaccinated.
Recently, New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio announced COVID restrictions will be fully lifted by the summer, and Governor Phil Murphy says he could see that happening in the near future for New Jersey. As of yesterday, the governor also tweeted that the vaccination numbers are going up like they're supposed to, with now over 3 million New Jersey residents fully vaccinated. The governor will announce more information on the COVID restrictions in today's upcoming meeting. For WMSC, I'm Patrina Geiger.
Your weather today is a high of 68 degrees and a low of 54 degrees. Now let's turn it over to Matt Boucher for some sports updates.
Good morning. For a 2-minute warning, I'm Matt Boucher. Let's get into it. Over the weekend in Montclair sports, we had a very eventful weekend. The baseball team lost both games of a doubleheader to Rowan University with a score of 7-4 and 14-1. Softball also lost both games of doubleheader to Rowan again with scores of 8-1 and 3-2. Men's lacrosse lost in the CSAC tournament 16-7, while women's lacrosse lost in the NJAC championship 16-6. In professional sports, just a few days ago, the NFL draft happened, and with that, some drama. Reports came out that Aaron Rodgers is unhappy with the Packers organization and that the superstar quarterback wants out. We will be closely monitoring this situation as it unfolds. In the MLB, the Yankees beat the Tigers yesterday 2-0 on the back of a Corey Kluber 8-inning performance where he recorded 10 strikeouts and only 2 hits. The Mets beat the Phillies yesterday 8-7 after they recorded 6 runs in the top of the 8th. Edwin Diaz was brought in to close the game in the bottom of the 9th, up by 4, and almost blew it, giving up a grand slam, which was actually overturned and not a grand slam, which led to only 3 runs being scored and a win 8-7. The Yankees have the day off today, while the Mets will take on the Cardinals. In the NBA, the Brooklyn Nets lost a close game to the Bucks, down 117-114. The good news, they lost by 3 to the Bucks, one of the most elite teams, and they did not have James Harden. The Knicks made a statement in a win last night against the Rockets, winning 122-97. And today, the Knicks will travel to Memphis to face the Grizzlies, while the Nets have the day off. And today, in sports history, in 1980, Willie McCovey hit his 521st and final home run of his career. Willie is tied for 20th all-time in home runs hit. We'll send it back to you guys now.
Awesome. Thank you, Matt. That was really cool. Now, shall we get into our top stories, Ryan?
Oh, I think we might have to, Kyle.
All right. Well, our top story for today is 3 were killed and 27 hospitalized after a boat capsizes off of the San Diego coast. So just on Sunday, a boat was hit by rough waters and broke in half on the San Diego coast near the peninsula of Point Loma. The boat was suspected to be part of a human smuggling ploy when it capsized. The initial distress call was only made for a few people going overboard, but as rescue arrived, they realized the situation could worsen quickly. San Diego Lifeguard Services Lieutenant Rick Romero said, quote, "Once we arrived on the scene, the boat had basically been broken apart. Conditions were pretty rough, 5 to 6 feet to the surf, windy, cold," end quote. 7 people were rescued from the waves and an additional 22 were managed to get to shore. Officials made sure everybody was accounted for on the shore, but have also had rescue helicopters and aircrafts searching the wreckage for hours afterwards to see if any more survivors could be pulled out of the water, if there were any more. And now another thing about this, more so on the smuggling. When stuff like this happens, the person in charge of it, so like the captain of the boat, would often be arrested, and more often than not, the people they were trying to smuggle would often be deported. In the light of this, it's unclear what's going to happen to everybody on the boat. A lot were hospitalized with like pneumonia. A lot of them were able to still walk after reaching shore, but they did contract a few injuries, a big one being pneumonia. So it's very interesting to see where this goes, because right now they're in a very bad place due to the rough waters, which also feeds into a misconception that as summer approaches, moving across the sea from Mexico to San Diego would be easier, which, as we can see, the waters are still very rough and it might actually make it harder.
Right. When I saw this story yesterday, I was just kind of like shocked by it.
Yeah.
It was just, whenever death happens, it's just like,
right.
But I think, I'm glad that some people are okay. Some people made it out alive in a way, but I do, heart goes out to all the 3 killed, and the 27 hospitalized. I hope,
Yeah. It's sad, really, because it's not like they really could have done anything. Like any form of travel you do, and this is the main thing this story got me thinking of, was any form of travel is so dangerous, and more often than not, it's out of your control, especially like boats and planes. Like for passengers, there's really not much you can do if something goes wrong.
Right.
Like even like the captain or the pilot of the boat or the plane, respectively, like they can only do so much if something was to go wrong. And that, it just made me think, like, that's a terrifying thought. And I would have no idea what it's like to be in a situation like that.
Right. And it's like, whenever I travel, I never traveled like on boat. Like I never went on a cruise or things like that. It's just kind of like a thing out of fear, I guess, just because I could swim, but I'm not like the best swimmer, in certain cases. But it's just like, whenever you're, like you said, what the risk you take when you go on a boat, things like that, it is scary on there. I went on a boat last year in the summer, and we almost like drowned the way that was going in a lake. But besides the point,
Wow.
Yeah, it's okay. We're fine.
But that's good to hear.
But it's just like, whenever you travel, like you said, whenever you travel, it's just some type of risk you're taking. Even when we drive too, whenever we drive, that's an issue.
Yeah, that is true. But I feel like, at least personally, on the road, you're a little bit more in control,
Sure.
kind of. But obviously, like, something can go wrong.
Right. Thomas, do you have any
Insight?
Now the situation is just it's really sad. Like all those people, like the 3 people that died and the people that were injured is just a really tragic situation. Honestly, like, I'm really sorry. I didn't get the whole story because like I'm really feeling like under the weather today. I don't know why.
Yeah. No, I mean, yeah, it's very unfortunate that 3 were killed, but fortunately, like, there were a lot of people that weren't injured too badly. Like I said, they were able to walk themselves from shore to the ambulance with very minimal help from like the rescue team. They like I said, like even 22 of them were able to get to the shore themselves. So it's very good that, I mean, it's very unfortunate that 3 people lost their lives, but silver lining, I guess you could say, is that a lot of people, a lot of the other people weren't hurt too badly.
Yeah, I mean, in the article too, the AP reported that it could have been a bigger situation with more people. If more people were involved, this would have been much, much worse.
Yeah.
So in a way, I'm glad there wasn't as many people, a lot of people on that boat, or else there could have been more of a problem for whether people drowning or people getting hurt. And I could just only, like, the conditions were just insane.
Yeah. The water can get, like, the ocean is a scary place, and knowing how rough water and waves can get anywhere is nerve-wracking, to say the least.
Yeah, right. To say the least is right. I'm looking at the pictures right now.
That's why I don't go too far out when I go to the beach. Like I don't go like too far in the ocean because
I don't like the beach at all. Not because of any fear. I just don't like sand. So I don't have to worry about the water because I don't step foot on the sand.
You live in a shore town, don't you?
Not really, no. We're more like smack center of Jersey, and there's not much anything in any direction.
If you don't like the beach, that's weird. But anyway, for those of you at home, and for those of you who are wondering what this place looks like in San Diego, imagine this is an extremely rocky part of the shoreline, and this is where the crash happened. Like, it was, so imagine, the crash is happening, and it's an extremely rocky surface, and it's just like the waves are just, the boat, as how the article describes it, is like the wave just pounded the boat, and it was just what caused it to break apart. And I just wanted to describe what people are thinking in their heads for those of you at home.
Can we get a close-up of the boat, because it kind of looks small from the distance?
Yeah, they said the boat was a lot smaller than one usually used for human smuggling, as they put it. So it was a smaller boat with lesser people, with fewer people on it.
Yeah.
And for those of you on Facebook, we have some of the images of the situation pulled up. Right here is the rocky area that Ryan was mentioning. And in this picture here is like a rough overview of the area as a whole, the shoreline area, the peninsula near Point Loma. And you can see the waves are just rough as ever. And then it's just crashing against this rocky surface that's just littered with debris at the moment. And it's even the pictures just make it so much worse to look at or read about, I guess, to say.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how I'd react if I was in that moment.
That's, I would not have made it to shore on my own. I can say that with fact.
Oh no. But I'm definitely staying out on the water for quite some time. I'll stay. Just because this will just stick with me in my head, and I'm this type of person that just, get very superstitious about that stuff. But moving on now to our second top story of the day. COVID in India. An Indian court urges the Indian government action as hospitals cry for help. With Indian hospitals struggling to secure oxygen and thousands of people dying a day, a court in New Delhi said it would start punishing government officials for failing to deliver the life-saving items. India reported 3,689 deaths on Sunday, and many experts believe it's an undercount. The United States, Britain, Germany, and several other nations are rushing therapeutics, rapid virus tests, and oxygen to India, along with some materials needed for India to boost its domestic production of COVID-19 vaccines.
Wow.
Yeah. How I like to explain it to people who don't really know what's going on in India right now. Imagine how it was in the US last year in April times 10. There are, I was listening to the Daily from the New York Times, and a reporter was giving the scene in India right now. And there are some points where people going to the hospital and people are telling them to go home because they don't have the resources. They're having doctors come in who were retired, the same thing where New York was asking retired nurses to come in.
Right.
They're bringing in retired doctors. The US is bringing people there. All these countries are trying to help India out, as well as just they just don't have the resources, right? President Biden sent over the AstraZeneca vaccine to them. But it's just at the same time, vaccines can only do so much. But if you don't have the resources, your people are not going to survive.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, definitely. Like people here take what we have for granted because like there are other countries like they don't even have enough masks to give to their citizens. So
right,
Wow,
and it's just seeing what's happening in India is devastating for the sole purpose of its death, and the fact that 3,000 people are dying a day, but that's an undercount. What
Yeah.
happened there with the government?
I mean, I maybe, and this is pure speculation from my point, but maybe they're undercounting to like not so much underplay it, but not to scare the public as much. I mean, 3,000 is still a large number of deaths per day, but maybe they're trying to like not cause panic. It's sounds almost horrible the way I say it, like from a government like if you think about it from a government standpoint, that is a horrible thing to do, even if you have the best intentions in mind. But from my opinion and my thought process alone, it just seems like not the right thing to do, but a logical step. Like it's already bad. We don't want to make it seem worse. So let's do this morally gray decision. And that is my opinion alone, with no reflection of that of the stations.
yeah, definitely, and we're definitely seeing a large effort by people like young people like us where we're doing we're trying to help the people of India. We're doing all these donations and fundraisers stuff like on TikTok and Instagram, and just trying to get them the stuff that they need
Right.
to get over this pandemic.
Yeah. It's chaos there, for lack of a better word, but it's not like India's going through a very rough time right now, and it's affecting countries all around it. Like just last week, Biden shut down travel to India because of the situation there. And recently, Australia, which is known for like really harsh border rules and stuff, has shut out travel to permanent residents in India. So, in other words, permanent residents of Australia that are currently in India are not able to go back to their country. The New York Times reported on this, and and one example is a family sent their daughter off to live with their parents in India, only expecting them to bring her back a month later. That was a year ago. So this girl has been living with her parents in India, even though she's a permanent resident of Australia, for a year when the original time was like a month time frame. And if anyone from India, if any permanent resident of Australia from India tries to come back to the country, they can face large fines or serious jail time. And this affects about 8,000 people from traveling back to their country. And it's believed that this is the first time Australia has made it a criminal offense to come back to their, country. So this probably wasn't the best response. I can understand where they're coming from because, like I said, Australia has had like probably the strictest border control we've ever seen, even before the pandemic. So they're trying to keep their country safe, obviously. And even throughout this whole pandemic, not just now, a lot of people weren't even allowed to leave Australia without specialized government permission. So they're sticking to what they've been doing for a while, but it doesn't seem like a morally ethical choice, kind of.
Yeah, and I was just thinking about this story made me think a little bit about like how other countries are impacted by COVID, and that a lot of these other countries kind of like still dealing with like viruses and stuff that we eradicated a long time ago, like smallpox. So so if we don't act like with these other countries, it could be possible that in the next 20, 30 years, they'll still be dealing with like COVID-19.
Yeah. I think in that time, like it'll definitely, hopefully get better. So it's not as detrimental of trying to think of the word, like as detrimental of a virus, we'll say, and it can be more easily like handled, kind of. Know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's definitely a horrible thing to think about. Like, imagine if that was here, like you couldn't, like people here who were visiting America couldn't go back to their country, or people from America who have traveled abroad can't come back. How would you guys like feel about that? Like, let's say one of you were like abroad, a permanent resident of America, but you were like studying abroad, let's say, and then you were told you can't come back, and a year later you're still abroad. How does that make you feel? Or like, how would you react? Because let's say if you were studying abroad and that's why you were away, and say you planned for 3 months to be abroad, and then all of a sudden you're there for a year. Because you probably won't still have housing if that time ended. So like, what would you do?
I guess I'm learning up on that language. No, but no, but seriously, on a more serious note, it's scary it's kind of unprecedented too, like what Australia did with their travel ban, I guess you would call it. Think of it last year when, President Trump, there was a travel ban on China and, things like that in Europe. And I think they went the wrong way about it because President Biden, he shut down travel from India for the sole purpose of trying to contain the virus.
Right.
And let's say he didn't shut down travel from India. Then if people come here from India, then cases go up. Then it's going to be like, oh, well, why didn't you shut down travel? Things like that. The way Australia went about it, though, is not right in the slightest, because we have to keep in mind that we're also dealing with a mental health crisis too, right? And if I can't see, you asked me what I would do. If I can't see my family, I'm already not seeing them for like half a year. And then you're going to add another year to that. How's that going to affect my relationship to them when there's a, pandemic going around? Right. And also I can't even see you, touch you, or even just like really do anything that we really could. And I'll have to change my life now,
Yeah.
It's not something that is, I feel for the people who are with the situation. I feel for the people who are going through this, because It's not right, you know. And
Right.
like you said, Australia has always had tight border control, things like that. Um, but at the same time, it's like where's the line? Like what line are people crossing
Exactly.
to keep their country safe, you know?
And for another example, last March, our general manager, Annabella Poland, wrote this to us, but she said that last March, Argentina called back its citizens who were traveling abroad to come back by a certain date and then closed the borders. So they gave everybody enough time, like, hey, if you want to come home, you better do it by March so and so. And then that's it. You're closed out for good, which is arguably a much better way to approach this than nobody can ever come here ever until we say otherwise.
Yeah. And we see a lot of just like this control lately, you know, like governments have like there's control of like what
Right.
people are. And immigration obviously has been a highly contested topic especially since 2016, you know, especially now. It's really talked about now.
Right.
Um,
But this isn't even
right.
immigration, so to speak. These are people who are from Australia originally that can't even go home.
Right. And that's that's what I was getting at because it was
Oh,
just like, no, you're totally okay. I just, um, it's just like, I don't know what I would do. Like, I don't know. It's just like I would have to literally just start a whole new life. I feel like, you know, because I don't know when
right.
it's gonna end. I don't know when it's gonna.
Yeah.
Personally, the way I would do it is I would do like you can come back, but then you have to quarantine for 2 weeks and you have to produce like a negative COVID test before like you can like resume.
Right. That'd probably be
Right.
the best way to do it. And I think that's what most countries did at some point, like I think a little earlier on. But the problem is, this is Australia we're talking about, and they have always been hard on their border controls. Like, even when it comes to like exotic animals, they very often don't let non-native animals into the country or continent, I guess I should say. So it's, I can see why they did it based on their past history, but you have to wonder when it comes to when we're talking more about people and not like an animal species, whether it was the right choice to make.
You know, maybe we should all. I think our generation is on this too, but we should just bring back morals and decency to the world again. I think that's what is needed to heal.
I mean,
Part of
if
the
you can
reason.
find them, I'm all for it.
Yeah. No, yeah, it might take a little bit and we might have to go fishing for it. But it's like I think that's bring morals back. Make morals great again. You know, just so, you know, because there's a point where things just get like I mentioned, there's a line that's being crossed, you know. Um that's really my take on it.
Right. Yeah.
Ryan
Uh,
Breyta 2036.
Oh
Bring
no.
back to
No.
America.
Please no. Thank you, Thomas. But no, thank you. Thank you for the endorsement. I appreciate it, but no thank you. um again, you're listening to WMSC Upper Montclair, the voice of Montclair State University. We will be right back. Welcome back to the Monday edition of the Morning Buzz. Kyle, I know you were, speaking about, other countries and we're talking about, we're talking about India. What else is happening around the world?
So, yes, we have some more news from, well, not more, but we have some news from North Korea as they warn the U.S. over Biden's big blunder. So, according to NPR, Kwon Jun-gun, head of the Foreign Ministry Department of U.S. Affairs, warned that the United States would face serious consequences if they continued their hostile response to Pyongyang's nuclear program. The statement follows Biden's speech before Congress on Wednesday, where he called the country's nuclear problem a threat to security, claiming he would respond to the nuclear program with, quote, diplomacy and stern deterrence, end quote. The White House press secretary, Jen Psaki, said the Biden administration was working to rid the country of their nuclear armaments completely and would try to, quote, and would not try to, quote, focus on achieving a grand bargain or rely on strategic patience, end quote. the Biden administration has a different approach than the previous two have had, in which President Trump tried to develop a more personal relationship and strike that grand bargain that Saki mentioned, and the President Obama administration was trying to use patient diplomacy to disarm the country. So it's interesting to see how this new approach will work because, like I said, President Trump tried to be more friendly with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un, and Barack Obama tried to use more patience and diplomacy. So it's interesting to see how trying to just completely rid the country of all nuclear weapons is going to play out, especially after this response saying, hey, if you don't stop, things are going to get serious, just to paraphrase.
I mean, how many times has North Korea said, you better watch out or you're going to be getting a Christmas gift tomorrow? Like, it's just like the approaches are really like, it's like striking to me, like how like different the approaches were from, President Biden and President Trump because
you mean President Obama.
Yes. So, excuse me. With, President Trump, when he went to go visit North Korea, he played, I don't know if you remember, he played Rocket Man for Kim Jong-un. I don't know if you
I do remember that, yes.
That was, and Trump tried to be friendly with North Korea, and then, the response there was, well, why are you trying to be friends with a dictator? And then, whatever the response was. And now you have President Biden trying to be more stern, I guess, with North Korea. And it's just like, the difference there is amazing because you could see how like they react now. Like they're like, well, I really wonder if that like had an effect on how our relationship with North Korea was like the past 4 years until now.
Right.
Just really interesting to see. And it's just like, obviously nuclear warfare is scary. I don't think anyone should have access to nuclear,
probably not the best thing to, mankind destroying weapons maybe isn't something you want readily available for anybody.
Right.
But the fact that they're saying, hey, things are going to get serious if the Biden administration continues with their plan, it's not something you really want to wake up to in the morning.
No, not at all. I mean, is it scary? Yes, it is scary. It is, it's just kind of like, what's going to happen today? What's going to happen on this day with North Korea,
I mean, you could apply that to pretty much any news story. Yeah, it's scary to think about. It's scary to hear about. But and this is me talking again, you can't live every day of your life in fear or else you don't do anything. So you can spend the rest of today and the rest of the week worrying about North Korea, but if nothing happens, well, there goes a week of your life.
Yeah.
Definitely. I'm very shocked that like Biden took this stance. I thought he would try to be a little more like diplomatic and with North Korea, but I don't know. Even if worse comes to worse, like honestly, right now, North Korea's weapons can reach South Korea, and I think they just improved it so that their missiles could reach Hawaii, I think, if they wanted to, but I don't think their weapons can reach the mainland yet.
Right. Yeah. So the latest comments, and this is to quote directly from the NPR article, North Korea's latest comments indicate its determination to continue its nuclear program. Analysts expect North Korea to test Biden's mettle with provocative actions. It launched 2 short-range ballistic missiles in late March. So that's like the most up-to-date, end quote, first off. That's the most like up-to-date news on where North Korea is standing with their nuclear warheads.
But like personally, I'd like to see like diplomacy before war.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
Yes, because if we have to, then we're going to see like a lot of casualties, especially in the surrounding areas like South Korea and Hawaii, and then it's going to be like the same thing with the Middle East. It's going to create. We're going to have to try to like if we end up like winning against Kim Jong-un, then we're going to have to like establish a new form of government. It's going to create like a huge like refugee crisis there, and it's just going to be a whole big mess in North Korea.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, I just want to point out, North Korea is a threat to the whole world. They're not just a problem in the USA. Around the world, they've been, the cruel acts have happened from North Korea. But it's just like going forward, we can hope that there are some type of, at the same time, it's like some people argue, why have relations with them at all? It's a very contested topic. And it's very interesting to see like the different, opinions on it and different sides of like where should we stand with North Korea? Because there's some people that are like talk to them, and then some people are like, no, not at all. We're going to tell them what to do. If that makes sense.
Even within the country, it's not sunshines and rainbows at all. They're everything that they've done to foreign countries, North Korea, they've pretty much done to their own people as well. It's almost like it's to
Definitely.
put it in a way, no one is safe.
Right.
The people in their country are suffering because they believe in, I forget what it's called, but it's basically the philosophy where their nuclear weapons programs and their military comes before like everything, pretty much, even like basic necessities like mask and food and that kind of thing.
Right.
I mean, Kyle, I don't know if you have any other selling thoughts on this, but
overall, it's just I'm interested to see how this new approach will work out. Seeing as the last two approaches were met with less than success. But until then, we can only remain or wait and see, because I really don't want it to fail based on this pretty much threat that North Korea has sent. And I don't think I'm alone in saying that, but I can't really do anything except, keep up on it and see how it turns out.
I think the most important thing is, hoping that the Biden administration does everything they could to keep the U.S. safe, and even the whole world as well, because we know that is needed for everyone to survive any threat from any country besides North Korea or anything. That's all we could really hope for. Shifting gears a little bit to the coronavirus, the New York Times reported today that reaching herd immunity is unlikely in the U.S., some experts now believe. With daily vaccination rates falling, there is a widespread belief from medical experts that herd immunity will not be able to be reached. Science believe that the virus will become a, quote, manageable threat that will continue to circulate for years to come. To be honest with you, I kind of saw that coming. It's because, a lot of people thought, we've talked about it on this show before numerous times, that with the vaccine, COVID's going to go away. It's going to be a disease that's here and a virus that's here forever, right? It's just going to be able to be controlled. And that's what the article really said, just making sure that COVID is controlled and it'll be manageable, but it's like the flu, and everything will be less how it was in, last year, obviously. And obviously we know how COVID affects people. We know who it affects the most, according to research, but I am not surprised by the fact that we're not going to reach herd immunity, at least right now. I just want to make that clear. In the article, it says at least right now, the U.S. probably will not get herd immunity because there are still 30% of the U.S. population that does not want to get vaccinated. And that was in the article from the New York Times as well.
And now, do you what are the specifics to reach herd immunity? Like, what percentage of people do we have to vaccinate in order to reach herd immunity?
It has to be at least 70%.
It's actually 80%. Yeah, 80% of the population. So with, people are getting vaccinated every day, over 200 million people have been vaccinated in the U.S., but we still have 30% of the population that does not even want to get the vaccination.
Right.
Still.
That's not 30% not vaccinated. That's 30% expressing their, not distrust, expressing their disliking to get vaccinated. That's not the right way to put it, but it means the same thing.
Right. And it's just like an everlasting thing of whether... the vaccines are working. The vaccines help prevent disease and infection. Well, they help prevent hospitalization. And we see numbers going down, in some parts of the country. So it's at the same point. It's at the same time. If more people mandate the vaccine, the more people vaccinated. For example, Montclair State mandated the vaccine for the fall. The campus will be vaccinated. There's 20,000 students in the university. Majority of those students will be getting vaccinated, right?
Right.
So I think if we see that more across the country, then we're going to have, the ability to lower infection and probably get closer to that herd immunity. But herd immunity was talked about for over a year because that was when there was no vaccine, and that was when the virus was spreading, right? Right now in the U.S., the B.1.1.7 strain is the leading strain, and it is 60% more contagious. So, the more people that do not get vaccinated, the more the virus can spread because the virus needs a host, right? So, obviously, if we do not reach the herd immunity threshold, hopefully the hope is that people are getting vaccinated and are able to lower the spread of the disease.
Right. And I think a big thing, like why herd immunity isn't possible or may not be possible, and that a lot of people are expressing that they don't want to get vaccinated, is because it's kind of like what you said. It doesn't necessarily prevent the disease completely, at this point in time, at least, but it can only prevent like hospitalization. And I think that's where some of the distrust, so to speak, comes from. Is they're like, well, if I still have to follow all these restrictions with the vaccine, and I know somebody said, I forget which official it was, but they said you can go outside without a mask now if you're
CDC.
vaccinated. Right. Yeah. I know they said that, but they still, like, all the things are still not exactly open yet. And like, we're still in this, whether you're vaccinated or not. And I think that's why there's some of that divisiveness on this vaccine, so to speak.
Well, look at, New Jersey today is making a huge announcement reportedly about their reopening procedures. And it's like all the people who are saying, they still have to follow restrictions. You would be a part of the population that is helping us get back to normal. New York City's planning to reopen July 1st. That obviously would not be happening if people are not getting vaccinated. But obviously, we have to look at there's like racial disparities among vaccination rates too. The distrust in minority communities about the vaccination too. That's an issue. There are, some conservative men do not want to get the vaccination because they don't trust it or they do not think it's a big deal. That's actually part of the leading cause as well.
Yeah, definitely. I was gonna say there's a very big partisan divide when it comes to COVID and the vaccination, because I think the poll shows about like 43% of Republicans don't want to get the vaccination, while only like 4% of Democrats say they will not get the vaccination.
Right. And it's just, I think we're all at a point now where, the virus was politicized for a year. People have their own opinions. You could do whatever. People have their own opinions of what the virus is, whether it's real, not, whatever. We know what's right or not, but it's like, at the same time, I think if the message about vaccinations was more of like, we can get back to our normalcy and you can get your normal life back if you get this vaccination, and maybe that message will work better for people. I don't know. I think that definitely helped convince me to get it. I mean, also I had COVID, so I know how it felt.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, I'm not saying this is exactly what it is, but just the way you presented that, like, oh, if you get the vaccine, we can get back to normal. I'm not saying it is. I'm not saying that's how you intended it, but it just sounds like propaganda the way you said it. Like, if you do this, this will happen. You should go do that. I'm not telling anybody to go do anything because we're not allowed to do that. But the way you said it just made it sound like, even if this information isn't true, we should still present it like this. But I'm digging a hole for myself, so I'm going to shut up now.
It's interesting. No, it's interesting because I reported on one piece before. It was about vaccines in the Black community, and the nurse who I was talking to, she is a person of color, and she told people of color she tried to not convince them to take the vaccination, but more like pleading them, to get the vaccination, because of all like the distrust in minority communities regarding the vaccine, whether it's from the Tuskegee Project, all that stuff, right? That's besides the point. But that's actually how she went about it in telling people to get the vaccine. And she said when she did that, like it worked, whether it's propaganda or not, the way the messaging is what helped, I guess. That's how like I would say it. And I just thought that was interesting instead of, someone saying the vaccine is safe and effective. When she said, you can get back to some type of normalcy, people were like, okay, then I'll probably get the vaccine then. It's really interesting how like now like people like words do a lot to people. Words really click with people instead of,
Words are very powerful. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I think the advertising campaigns that have been going on like NBC New York and all that is very effective too, because another large reason why a lot of people won't get the vaccine is for financial reasons, because they don't know that the vaccine is at no cost.
Right.
Yeah. And I'm glad there's more vaccine eligibility now. I'm glad now, in the beginning, people would have to make an appointment. Now, and like the mega sites in New Jersey, you could walk in. And
that's definitely a very good development, that like not only as anybody who works, lives, or studies in Jersey, 16 and up can get it, but that you don't have to go through the rigorous process. Because I remember when Lewis was on the show, he was telling us how he kept checking this Twitter account every day to see like, what's open, when can I get in? And it just sounded like such a arduous process that like you don't necessarily have to do that anymore. I think it's a very good development for this case, or for the vaccine, I should say.
I was checking the same Twitter account, and my father actually found a site 15 minutes away from us through his job, and I got the first dose of the vaccine there, and I'm gonna go get the second one in about 3 weeks or so. But like I was checking the Twitter account, and I could only find like these places that were like an hour away, and I'm like, well, we have to drive an hour away. He's like, oh no. And then so it is a very tedious process. I had to look at this whole big spreadsheet of places to go, and
I don't like spreadsheets. Spreadsheets are very overwhelming.
Spreadsheets are scary sometimes. Yeah. I mean, I like Google Sheets is better than Excel, I think, but besides the point, off topic. But, vaccinate, and we're going back to the, vaccination stuff. It's, I think the more, I think people are at the point now where it's like, whether they get vaccinated or not, there are some people who are just like, I want my life back, whether we hit herd immunity or not.
Right.
And in some cases, I think life will go back to normal, but in other cases, I still feel like we'll still be into some type of, I feel like I'm still going to be on Zoom, on the radio sometimes,
Yeah.
Because it's just easier. It's easier.
Yeah, I think we've, I forget where I first heard this term, but we might go to we've developed a sense of COVID convenience almost. So even if we do go back to completely normal life, I think there's still going to be some aspects from this that stick. Like, I believe I mentioned this before, but this pandemic has shown that a lot of, like, let's say office workers, like people who work in like corporation buildings stuff, don't necessarily need to go into the office every day and can work from home. And I think even if we do return completely normal, we're going to see a lot more people doing stuff from home.
You know what's even scarier? How people are going to act when we do get back to normal. I think people, including myself, it's going to be a little strange and bizarre, like getting back into like for example, going into like a concert or something, or going to like a packed event, because how do we react? How do we talk to people? Do we like give people fist bumps? Do we give people like handshakes? I was in a job interview and the other day, and the guy interviewing me tried to go for a handshake, and I was like, I'll give you a fist bump. Like I'll give you like a little elbow bump. It's just like, will that continue? Will people be afraid of that? I think that's the scarier part, because humans are we changed the way we really communicate too. I mean, like I'm really talking with my eyes right now. and like you can't see my mouth, like I don't, with masks on. I think people are gonna have a weird shift, especially young children. I think are gonna have a hard time going back to life.
Yeah, like younger kids who have like grown up necessarily to this are it's definitely going to be, and I think the vaccine, uh, regardless as if we're getting back to normal or not, I think the vaccine will remain divisive at least a little bit, no matter what happens. I mean, most are like you have that whole anti-vaxxer group, but um, there's one really big group that is very much against vaccinations, and that is house pets.
Really?
Yes. Well, maybe not. I don't have any stats to back that up. But I do have this story from NJ.com where somebody's dog ate their vaccination card.
What is this? A story from
Yeah, let's read through this. So, upon receiving her second COVID vaccine shot, Katie Couch was given her vaccination card, but there was somebody who wasn't too happy with the news. Less than a week later, Couch's 10-month-old puppy Oliver had gotten his paws on the card and used it as a teething toy. Couch gathered up the pieces of the card and tried to tape them back together. The end result was an amalgamation of pieces of paper that indeed proved she was vaccinated, but made no effort to hide that it doubled as a dog toy. While not the first thing that Couch's puppy tore up or ate, credit cards, sunglasses, phone, computer chargers being among the victims, this was something she didn't necessarily know how to readily replace. Luckily, the site she got vaccinated at was able to replace it with no problem, but not before several nurses and security guards got a good laugh at the end result of the vaccine card. And if I actually can pull up a picture of what the card looks like. So basically, it's a picture of the dog, or it's a picture of the vaccine card with the dog in the background. And you can tell just there's a bunch of bite marks and everything in it. It's now the dog is adorable. Let me just get that out of the way. But the card you can see is just mangled.
Oh wow, this is literally the epitome of dog ate my homework.
I was trying to find a way to work that in, but I couldn't.
It's like, can you imagine? I like this story. Like, it's obviously great, but I also am a little scared that people are going to start using this as an excuse because it actually happened before.
Right.
We're gonna be like, so where's your vaccination card, or where's your proof?
Well, here's the thing: she had to use it. She had to use this version of the card, the chewed up one, to get into a sports game that she was going to. And although the security guard did laugh, because she did have proof, she had a picture of the card chewed up, but regardless, she was still let in. So I don't think that excuse will fly necessarily, at least because the state of this card, it was still very mostly intact to the point where you could still read it. So I think some people may try to get away with that excuse, but I don't know how much it'll work per se.
Yeah, definitely. I thought it was like a little more damage. So like it was in pieces. And she had kind of like put them together like a puzzle, but it's only like the ends over there for those who can't see the picture.
Yeah, I mean, she said she had to tape them together, and I can see like the light bouncing off the tape in some areas, but like for the most part, it looks very well put together. Like she did a good job Frankensteining it back into something legible. But you can see like there are some bite marks along the edges, probably pieces she couldn't find.
And for those of you who couldn't see the picture on air, this dog is probably one of the cutest dogs I've ever seen. They have their, I don't know if it's a he or she, Ollie, the name is. Ollie, the dog, Ollie, the puppy. He has his ears up. He's just looking like he just wants to like go outside and play with, play fetch or something. He's probably the cutest dog in the world.
He's almost eyeing the card like, yeah, I would do it again.
Yeah, and he's like, I honestly, I'm not trying to defend Ollie, but at the same time, I am. It's a huge drama.
It's good that she was able to keep it very some form of intact, and B, that she was able to get a replacement card without any problem.
But also, And again, you're listening to WMSC Upper Montclair. But also, here's the thing. Maybe there needs to be a call to, like, instead of not give out just a piece of paper after you get the vaccine and be like, congratulations. Because I just feel like that's like a certificate. Like, there should be some type of digital
I
way
was
of
thinking that. Like, we live in a completely digital age. Why are these cards not digital? I
well,
mean, pretty much everything else is.
I think the problem there was there's like a digital divide sometimes
Right.
with people. So, like, let's say people who are homeless trying to get the vaccine, what are they supposed to use for their proof? So I
Right.
think that's part of the reason.
Then in that case, you could make both an option then. Like,
I
you can
agree.
either get one or the other or both.
I agree. CDC, if you're listening, I mean, maybe you should take up our advice. I don't know. um, but again, you have been listening to WMSC Upper Montclair, the Monday edition of the Morning Buzz. I just want to end real quick and just say a little bit of like sad news and just a little remembrance. Per fanboy police officer Arcadio Rivera, he died on 4 days ago in a car crash. And he was a per fanboy police officer. I knew Arcadio Rivera. My dad was a police officer in per fanboy. I knew Arcadio. He had always come to my birthday parties when I was younger, things like that. Really great guy. And the crash happened suddenly. I just want to say to the family of Arcadio Rivera, I'm so sorry for your loss, and I just want to send prayers out to the family and the whole per family police department, because the whole situation was just sad, and you'll always be remembered. I just wanted to give that a little shout out there. But again, I hope you all enjoyed the Monday edition of the Morning Buzz. I have been Ryan Breyta, along with me,
Kyle Pepitone.
and our news
Thomas
contributor.
Tucker.
Thank you so much,
Thomas
everyone. Thank you, Thomas. Thank you so much.
You all know my name now.
Yeah, if you don't know Thomas, it's our news contributor. It is Thomas Tarter. But I hope you all have a great Monday. Enjoy that weather and stay safe, everyone.